Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Tech Tuesday. Tim already said, I'm Ben, he's Tim, or whatever his name.
You're probably going to leave that in there too, ain't you?
Yeah, oh yeah, of course. Reed's definitely
It's okay. I should really soften up my voice, you know. Hey everybody, welcome to Ace's Fuel Injection.
Welcome.
I'm Tim, this is Ben, and this is Ace's Tiny Desk. I hope you enjoyed the musical arrangement today, and let's get on with it. I hope that helps.
All right, we'll get right into the questions for you guys. There's a ton on here, so we'll see how many we can get through. So we'll rock and roll with the first question from Chris Phoenix 6564. We may have even started off with him last week. I can't remember, but he says, for the Killshot, do you recommend a single plane intake or a dual plane? If a dual plane is used, does it need to be the crossover cutout / passage that some have?
I've got an answer for that. Single plane's awesome, especially when you got velocity going through them things. Distribution's good and all that stuff. Low end torque is more of a dual plane type thing. If you want something that takes off and cruises real good, dual plane is awesome for that. But you're not going to get a lot of RPMs out of it because it's restrictive. But if you got a good high-rise dual plane intake with the little center thing kind of shaved down some, maybe an inch or so, some of them already come pre-cut. That is my personal. I like that the best because it covers a lot more of the RPM range and feels good. So, and somehow it's cheaper. So
Really?
more cost effective.
That's awesome.
But yeah, this if you're not using an Aces intake, that's something you can look into. Is especially if you got an email in the back of your garage, like a lot of us do. You get the Facebook Marketplace $1,000 email, and all your buddies have to put it on a trailer, and it's weird, but it's just a thing. Sure. You can mill that out a little bit and make it happier. Obviously, single plane is the best for performance. Dual plane's real good for low end torque, and a dual plane with the notch cut out is awesome. If you don't have the implements necessary to notch that thing, which there's lots of ways to do it. Don't do it on the engine, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Use a bit of a spacer. But yeah, you can still use a dual plane. You can use a cut dual plane. You can use a single plane. You can use dual plane with a spacer. They all perform a little bit differently, but all very good. If you're obsessed with top-end horsepower numbers, but you don't care about drivability, then single plane is the one for you. Still got some good drivability, but if you're obsessed with the top number, that's the path you want to look at.
Yeah.
I use all of them. Actually, I use whatever I got laying around, depending on what test I'm going to do. I got one of each.
Yeah. I think Bradley and I answered a question similar to that a couple weeks ago, but I think that is a very awesome, detailed answer for between both. I think it's great. All right, after you.
Okay. Jeffrey Curry, 4351. The Joker EFI Big Block Chevy Kit with black BBC 454 rectangle port manifold. I can't wait for you guys to create an adapter for reading oil and fuel pressure simultaneously. That's going to probably be more of a future update because we get a lot of people that went both. And as you know, when you guys come knocking, we do like to answer the best we can.
We do.
And because we're changing some pins and doing some things on the PC boards and reassigning some wires that honestly never really get used that much. So that's something that it is on the list. We've talked about it. We had a recent meeting about that particular thing, and I hope to see some movement. If we do decide to go ahead and pull the trigger on that, there'll be a big what-to-do thing about, hey, by the way, people, you could do this and this. But right now, it's just the one.
Yep, absolutely. S.A. Cooper, 802, question 3. We got Uncle Tony's Garage giving bad reviews on aftermarket EFI throttle bodies attached to carb intake manifolds, saying he's heated exhaust gas ports and most intake manifolds heat the fuel to higher temperatures than OEM fuel injection systems, causing a hamper in performance at highway speeds versus carbs. He did say that using an Edelbrock air gap could help solve the heated fuel issue. He claims carbs have a Venturi, nice, that cools the fuel down enough to not have this problem with carbs. So Uncle Tony recommends using air gap manifolds or block the EGR port to prevent the natural heating of the intake manifold that initially designed for carburetors.
Yeah. No, that's accurate. If you got that crossover EGR port in some of your intakes, it does make heat. And carburetors do have Venturi. And if you look at some thermodynamic principles, Bernoulli's principle, this, that, and the other, and several other principles, you're going to notice that when there is a pressure change, there is a temperature change. So if you drop pressure, do a thing to get that fuel accelerating out of those annular discharge rings or discharges or whatever carb you got going on, it does make it colder. Makes the air colder by, 80 or 100 degrees or some crazy number that you wouldn't expect. That's how you end up with like carburetors that got icing, airplane stuff, right? So anyways, so that was that little thermal crossover for the EGR. A lot of people just run an intake that's blocked off, or they block it off the stovepipe, as the dude says. Or they run an air gap intake. That's a legit thing. Yeah. It's like if you got temperature inside of your intake and the air isn't dropping temperature because of the lack of Venturis, then yeah, you can look into that. It's not the end of the world stuff, but most people use aftermarket intakes and solve that problem. If you run an old school truck intake with that crossover, it will heat some stuff up. So, but it's not going to be as dramatic as it seems, because a lot of these reviews, a lot of people like to try to bump it up a notch like it's the end of the world, but it's really not.
Yeah.
You will have some heat in the center of your intake, and it will mess with some fuel stuff, but not terrible. It's not going to vapor lock your motor and all kinds of other junk. But yeah, if you want to get away from that, just run a good air gap intake. If you really want to get away from it, go multi-port, Joker, Wildcard, etc. Fantastic setups. I'm actually, when I'm done with the current testing that I can't tell you guys about, I can't even tell Ben about because it's that crazy. But don't pop the hood on my Tahoe. There's something cool going on under there. I am going to actually transfer that truck back to a Joker.
Okay. Cool. All right. Short questions.
And yes, our battery went bad in our smoke detector.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say it. I was going to let them enjoy it.
No, it's killing me. All right, so we got to put in a purchase order for 1 9-volt.
1 9-volt battery. Okay.
That's actually my fault that thing is the way it is.
Yes. We may keep it in a video.
We should.
We may keep it in a video. But it is Tim's fault. But it is quite hilarious.
Also, we need an 8-foot ladder to get to it.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. Okay. I leave the short questions for you purposefully. Just to help you out.
Funny. What does that even say? Brandon LOL or something like that. Brandon All. We'll call him Brandon All.
Brandon All.
Yeah, 4262. Any plans for a Jackpot Hemi Light? That's a neat one. Thanks for the idea.
That's
we'll talk
an
about that.
Interesting thought.
Yeah, I never really thought about it too much. We was just happy to get the Hemi actually hitting on all 8, feeling good. But the Hemi's been a win. We've had a lot of people get the Hemi kit and bolt it on, and it's just been epic.
Yeah.
So I'm very pleased with the performance of it. I did some personal testing, and we've had, I think, 8 different engineers actually play with the calibration on it. On our, I think it was a Jeep motor we did it on. But nevertheless, from a Jeep, then we refined it on a Challenger. Then we made it better with our intake. That thing's great.
Yeah.
I look forward to putting that engine in something interesting that I can't tell Ben about yet.
All right.
He'll have to film it, but it'll be epic.
Well, I'll know about it then.
Yeah, he'll know about it then.
Okay. Cisco.
I remember that guy from the 2000s.
Jose. Yeah. Can you guys make a Velocity Stack style intake for the LS?
That literally takes market research. We have a source for those things, but we have to see, like, if we invest the money in it.
I'm blanking on the name. There is a company that is doing stacked injection with our stuff, multi-port stuff. It's not LS. I can't think of the name.
Oh God, my brain's melted too.
I can't remember.
No, they had like a TPS thing that read backwards, and we went back and forth a couple times, and they got it all sorted out. It was pretty epic. But yeah, really neat stuff. There is people using a Velocity Stack setup, but they're doing some. I think they're using like a multi-gang map sensor for all the different intake runners on that, or stack runners. But the real solve on a Velocity stack thing, especially if it's individuals, is running an alpha end style fuel map, which we don't do that strategy yet.
I'll figure it out. I'll put there'll be a link here.
Yeah, there'll be a thing about who Who's
you
the
can
guy
click
that does
that for stacked injection. Just check them out. Shout out to them.
They might actually sell a kit or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they should have the answer.
Yeah. I read the last one, so here you
go. David Flores, hashtag, comma, space, GJ7RG.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, neat. 622. I bought your Asus top-end kit. Just wondering if you want to come to Texas and install my kit. LOL. I can work somewhat on my C1500 V8 350, but this is a little bit more complicated than I can do. It's not as bad as you think.
Yeah.
I've just seen a lot of your videos, but just don't have the confidence to do it. Thanks. Send me a shirt.
It's a Killshot
top end kit. Please.
Yeah. He's got a smiley face emoji.
Super neat thing. You got a small block 350. It's going to be the same one that I've got. Swap to a carburetor style manifold. Bolt the thing on. Get 43 pounds of fuel pressure to it. Or if you want to get, like I did, get lazy, throw an EFI rated pump in the tank, run a Corvette regulator, return line back, deadhead it into the throttle body. Good sources of voltage. I use the old, for my switch 12 volt, I use the old injector power. Like the old, there's like 8 different pink wires that all have switched 12 volt power, but it's all clean power. And then I run everything else to the battery and ran it on stock. My Tahoe that I daily drive, which is going to have, depending on what year that C1500 is, I'm running it on the Wizard. And as many of you know, I put about 600 plus miles on this thing a week, and I'm getting right at 20 miles to the gallon now. After I did make some adjustments, but I ran it on the Wizard up until extremely recently because I'm getting ready to switch over to do some other testing on another product. But it's been nothing but a win for me.
Yeah.
Now, I've got more transmission than that truck can handle, that's for sure. But I love when people drive my stuff because it starts so easy, but then they get really shocked when it hits second gear and just rips the tires off the pavement with no effort.
Well, that's you and your builds.
That's what happens when you have a customer want a transmission overbuilt and then they back out, and then you're sitting there holding the bag and you're like, oh no, my truck transmission went bad. I'll put this $3,000 something pile of parts into my $500 truck.
I think there are a lot of people that relate to that, Tim. I don't know.
Everybody's run the shops, never had somebody back out of a job. Yeah, you're missing it.
Yep.
That's how you get the best turbo kits, best transmission builds. You never build your own very good, but you build everybody else's stuff amazing.
Yep. Don Dotter says
Dottener.
Dot
24.
Yep,
a Dominator flange throttle body would be an expensive venture, not a high demand, but it would be cool. I agree, it would be very cool. We have to, when we get to that point, it'll be extremely obvious that we'll have to go that direction. But, honestly, we'll probably lay the plans for that kind of eyeballing it. So if we do decide to go that direction, it's literally a point click, make a phone call, get this manufactured type situation. But yeah, that's the thing is a lot. There's a handful of people that want a Dominator flange and a 1,200 horsepower capable 8 injector throttle body, this, that, and the other. But it's we're really focused on the hot rod market.
Yeah,
might be a thing later. I mean, honestly, really might be a thing because why not?
Yep. H Price 5490 says, "Hurry up with the module install video. I'm installing one with my Jackpot system." Yeah, we're pretty much, the LS one is closer to finishing, but we do have to do we do initial start and then
I think it's referring to the PDM.
The PDM module.
No, that is
good.
like the next informational video. We got one little thing to tidy up on a video we're currently doing, and then it's going to be right into the PDM.
Yeah.
We're going to do a short on it about a couple things, and then we're going to do like a long form video on it too.
What are we putting it on?
Weirdly enough, I'm going to wire it up on the table on a power source.
Okay.
And then because if we install it in a vehicle, it's going to take 4 or 5 days of messing with it, installing it, trying to get all the right camera angles. Because it's not Hollywood magic. It's like, it's a 30-minute video. It took 6 days to make. That's the reality of it. But when it comes down to it,
it's probably just easier to see.
I mean, if I just get a nice flat table and then lay it out so you can see all the wires end to end and identify everything correctly, I think it'll make a lot more sense to do it that direction and add some good educational stuff in there with that. Now I do have one on my desk that I pulled for some other testing I was doing, but that's the one I'm going to use. So I already have the PDM ready for the video. It's just
sweet.
We got to finish one, and then we're getting into that one.
Cool. Racer 1987. Is it possible to create a tune and save the files before loading one from the Killshot? I don't see my saved files in the calibration data file. ...
Might have to elaborate a little bit more on that, but
create a tune and save the files before loading one from the Killshot.
You can run the wizard and create different files. You can do a tune and create different files and keep them in the folder that's actually on the handheld. And like, for instance, you make one for pump gas and you make one for E85 and you're like, hey, I'm running pump gas out of this fuel cell. Upload the tune and send it. The only thing that gives you a headache is the fact you got to cycle the key a couple times to reset the IAC. But that's not really a massive deal. It's just something you got to do anyways.
Is he just saying, like, loading a tune before you, like, run the start wizard or anything like that? Just build a tune for it ahead of time?
You can do that. If you already have a pretty good tune, like just you got it from a buddy with a similar build, you can load that to the handheld, then send it to the ECU, or just take it straight from your laptop and send it in. That's not a massive deal.
Yeah, that's what I was reading it as. But
hopefully one of those things we said answers your question. If not, give us some more information, and we'll touch back base on that.
Yeah.
Irish Outlaw Garage, I am watching. We're watching you.
Thanks, buddy.
That guy was great. I met him at PRI.
Jay.
Real good dude.
Yeah. I'd feel bad giving you a longer question, but I'm going to give it to you.
Doc anyway. 4244 EFA. Okay, I've had Killshot about a year and a half. 2 questions. 1, after I install Quick Draw, my ABS light is on. That's true. And a 98 Chevy 3500 dually, is my ABS still working? Your VCM will still need the speed signal. If you got that, it's not getting a proper speed signal. Look for your speed output and then find your speed wire, speed sensor wire off your original VCM, and see if they're happy, because it needs to see that low speed sensor. Yeah, it's a thing. That's why I'm using my VCM on my Tahoe instead of using the Quick Draw, because I know a way around the whole thing, so my transmission still works, my transfer case still works, and so on and so forth, because I wanted to do that as an interesting experiment in case I ever got asked that question about that. Can you make that work? Yeah. It's just, I don't know. ABS still works, transfer case works, transmission works. It was a little tricky to get the torque converter lockup to work correctly, but that was like a whole thing. Now we're having different options on the wiring harness that's going to help with that. We just got to know how to read a wiring schematic pretty decently.
Yeah.
Number 2, my IAC about 95% of the time goes out of spec. I'll set it, drive to work, goes to 5. Truck's been set in about 3 months. Installing air ride system. I like to hear that. I got air ride on my Prius, as a matter of fact. It's true.
It's true. He's not lying.
Should I send you? I'll send Ben a picture so he can float the Borderlands Prius. If he decides it's a real thing. It can't hurt you, but it exists.
It can hurt you. It can.
It can. Don't get your foot underneath the drip rail. It'll squish your toes.
A word.
Fun story. My mom drives that now. Start each week to temp and always adjust the IAC adjustment. TPS goes to 0.0 to 0.2. What do I need to look at to keep from adjusting all the time? I wouldn't be so obsessed with the IAC number. As long as it's not breathing hard and doing a thing. What it is at that 5%, it's at that 5 steps as it is. It's totally bottomed out, so you got too much air. I would adjust the plate a little bit more closed till it's between 10 and 30 or whatever makes you feel, whatever makes the motor to feel the happiest. And also, here's another fun fact some people do. They'll get it up to temperature, and a fan will kick on, which will up the IAC by a percentage, and you adjust it for your target. And then when that fan kicks back off, it goes back to 5. Just a thing. I've seen it. I made it on the video I made about the IAC. That was one of the things I made sure to mention in there because I've seen too many people do that, and they're like, it's always reading 5. But when I started up, it's reading 5, and then it gets the temperature, and it gets to 195, and all of a sudden it's reading correctly, and then it's not reading correctly, and I'm like, oh, okay, so you just need to open it up some more, because when a fan kicks on, it does up it up some, unless you tell it not to, unless you go in there and zero out those values.
Interesting.
But I hope that helps.
Yeah. At least things to look for. Next question comes from Sam McBean. Nice name. I want to break in my cam without my Killshot possibly misbehaving. Is it possible to use the Aces Blackjack distributor on its own? No ECU? If so, how?
You need something.
Yeah, I don't think you can do it on
its own. You need an ignition box. If you got one of our ignition boxes or even an old school MSD, you can use those because that is purely a magnetic distributor. Sends out a sine wave, does a thing. Honestly, if you're just going to be doing break-in, you're real worried about timing control because you maybe ain't got it dialed in yet, just stab an old HEI in there. Set it to whatever your base time it is. Just use that temporarily if you don't feel super comfortable with the adjustments on that blackjack distributor. Or it sounds like you're probably going to go with a carburetor during the break-in procedure like a lot of people do. I like to break my engine in on Killshot, but real good at figuring out how to get those things adjusted, I guess is a good way to say it. Not everybody has a decade of EFI experience behind their belt. So
yeah.
But yeah, that's if you're going to do that, find a buddy with an old ignition box. If you plan on using our distributor, you can still use it. A lot of times you can still use like a canister coil with those things. But yeah, you need something that's going to take that signal.
All right, next question is the Unshaped Fang. Welcome back, Tim.
Hey.
I bought your Killshot Ultimate Bundle for Christmas. I'm installing it on my 68 C10 468 Ci big block Chevy. My question is, I got the High Roller Classic as a free upgrade in the bundle, and I notice it does not have the 2-step Revlimiter wire. Is this something that I can add the trigger wire, or would I need to buy a second High Roller but the Pro version? Thanks.
Yeah, the High Roller Classic is like a strip down, just puts out the energy thing. It doesn't have all the extra fiddly bits with the launch control rev limiter options. That's why it's priced the way it is, because the Pro does have those extra features. I know that breaks your heart, but it is the thing. That's why we made like a classic version of some things and a Pro version of it as well, because if somebody don't want all the functions and features, they just go classic and say, I got an ignition box that puts down good spark and does a fine job, but I don't need a rev limiter. It's very cost effective, go that direction, but I need the extras, pay a little bit more money, get the Pro. We just wanted to have more options for you, the people, because we do it for the people. Yep.
Next question, I'll let you take it. It's probably the last
Which
one
one?
before I have to refresh.
Churd 83. Churd 83. You churd what I'm saying? Can you add an option to support 2-speed fans? I need to disable fan 1 when I enable fan 2. Depending on the fan setup. If it's like I've used in a few times, if it's one of those deals where it's like a 3 or 4 wire fan, there's going to be fan number 1 and then fan number 2, and they both be on at the same time. One's just a lower voltage, low speed, high speed situation, depending on how it's wired. Some you absolutely have to disable fan 1 to enable fan 2. So that was good timing. We don't have the ability in the software yet because we never really needed to when fan 2 is on, disable fan 1. Never really needed that just yet. So interesting, something to look at if we want to throw that option in at some point. But yeah, not really quite a thing. You could do some real tricky stuff with relays to where one relay is active, the other one's off type situation. You can do that with a 5-wire relay to where even though it's ground triggered on fan number 1, when fan number 2 is triggered, it opens a circuit. That's like real complicated.
Yeah,
actually,
I was going to say.
a little bit. But there's a couple of videos and some graphics out there on the internet that you can just real easily look up about, how do you do an and/or situation.
Sure. Kyle Ross, R9P, says, any plans today to make a GT40 EFI harness and intake? Not to my knowledge.
GT40. Like GT40 heads or like the Ford GT40?
That's what I'm thinking of.
in the way back. Or 1995 Ford Explorer GT40P heads. A little bit more context would be good, but no, we don't have anything to do a direct install on a GT40 because I think we only got like 2 customers that got a GT40 with a 351 that's running our stuff, and like a whole thing.
It's a good question. I mean, I don't know what the future will bring, but there's no plans right now.
Isn't that what those high school kids are building, like Daytonas or GT40
they're
Factory
building,
5 things? It's real neat.
Why can't I think of it? Cobra.
Cobra. Yeah, that's right. They're building Cobras.
Shelby Cobra. No.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yes. Factory 5 Shelby Cobras is what they're building. It's real neat program.
We'll explain that later at some point. Yes. I'm working on it.
What does that say? Emil Hillerand.
I don't know.
88. Point, click, and buy for RE, please. I would like a 4-barrel setup. Are you talking about a 22 RE? Because right now we have an R. The old school, get ready your old carburetor. Don't worry about the Webers and all the infinite adjustments. Get the deuces wild on that thing. But if it is for a 22 RE, if we decide to go that route at some point, it'll be a variant of a Jackpot running fuel injectors, not so much doing a 4-barrel setup. But also 4-barrel is a bit much for a 22 RE motor. 2-barrel screams. Trust me, I've got quite a whole week with Miss Ferris actually on that 22R project. That thing is a ripper of a truck.
Yep.
Of course, I mean she built the motor and it's quite good.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I haven't heard of anything like that in the works. Maybe future things as well, but yeah, probably not. At least not in the near future. David Cunningham, 00. I need a Hemi Jackpot that controls the 545 transmission. Please, guys. I need it, he says.
Mopar. Or no car. Isn't that the same?
It is a saying. I don't know if it's the saying, but it's definitely a saying.
It is definitely a saying. Anyways, the 545 transmission. I'm currently, because 2025, I'm going to be pushing out a lot of projects, doing a lot of R&D stuff, this, that, and the other, and a big slice of those, about 28% of them, if you want to get weird about it, is transmission-related stuff. Now, I've sent some transmission information, calibrations, and various things like that to the R&D team, and we're going to be doing some interesting stuff. I've purchased a lot. I don't have a 545 transmission laying around yet. I'll find one. But, we're going to be really busting it down with all the 4-speed stuff available that people typically commonly swap into Hemi stuff, into Ford stuff, into GM stuff. Now, we already got the GM stuff, but there's a lot of other variations that we can push to make very compatible with our stuff, too. So that's that 545 is one on the list. I do have a lot of information about it. We literally need to come up with a strategy, build a harness, and then plug it in and test it. And then push it out on the market. We want everybody to have the options because it's going to come down to a Mopar harness, a Ford harness, a GM harness when you order those things. And it'll be great. It's one of the product, but for us, it's a bit of software and a wiring harness. It is quite a lot to do because we have to install all these different things and actually physically test them. You can't just, imagine the wheel and then sell it with no testing. We're not going to do that. That'll give you a headache.
Yep.
And it'll lose you customers. And it looks real bad on the internet.
Last one's not really a question, but we'll end on it. Family Youth Cast says, cheers all, salute. Working on my swap on a 1988 Wagon Caprice following the channel. Good info.
Good
Thanks,
choice.
Guys. Thank you, guys.
Hey, send us a picture of that thing. We love old box Chevys.
Yep. And all the feedback, all the questions. It's fantastic. We love it from answering the questions and just getting to have this kind of a dialogue is very helpful, I think. Overall, I don't see it too many places. So some people have tried to copy it, but we're not going to get into that. But it's good. We love it.
You know you're doing good when your competition starts looking real familiar to your adverts and some of the things you do.
It's okay.
And we love it. We encourage it.
Yeah.
We really do because That
It's
means
helpful.
that more information's getting out to the hot rod market. And we're all about the people. It doesn't have to be like, oh, it's an Aces person or it's a X brand person or what have you not. It's like, hey, we all out here doing stuff.
Yep.
Let's all make it better.
Yep.
Let's do this thing.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. And Tim, I'm very thankful that you stuck around and drove all the way out to the studio. I cut you off. You're going to say something else.
I had nothing interesting to say.
Oh, bro, I'm sorry. Let me think. I lost my train of thought.
Oh, the only thing I was doing was building, planning, and working with the city. So,
and getting the key.
I
to
forgot
the treasury or whatever.
No, I forgot the garage door key for here. I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah, that was the thing. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching this episode of Tech Tuesday. If you liked it, please feel free to leave a like down below. If you have any questions about Aces fuel injection or EFI in general, please feel free to leave a comment down below, and we'd be happy to get to it in our next Tech Tuesday video. And if anybody else that you know is working on something that could use a little bit of fuel injection action, send them our way. We'd love to point them in the right direction. But yeah, as always, guys, we appreciate you guys watching this episode, and we'll see you all in the next one. Bye for now.
Bye now.